What's up, everybody? Welcome back to KPS Stories Podcast.
I'm your host, Steve.
I'm your co-host, Kayla.
Got a very special show lined up for everybody here tonight.
We're going to be talking about cryptids. All right, so we actually do have a caller. It's JB from Philadelphia. How you doing, JB?
Hi, so I was just wondering, I've listened to the show every episode so far, first day it comes out, but are the callers even real? Yeah, Kayla, why don't we just skip to the next caller?
Okay. So the next one we have here looks like Aaron J. from Wild Loosing. So, I heard that the leader of the the founder of the KPS, is really into Bigfoot. Can you tell us a little bit about why you like Bigfoot so much?
Yeah, of course, Aaron J. from Wild Loosing. So, the thing about Bigfoot that makes him the best cryptid, the king of cryptids, whatever you want to say about him, is just that he's the most realistic out of many of them. Other than, the giant squid, the things that actually historically have existed. And what's so compelling about Sasquatch is just the implications that it carries for our society. So we're looking at a creature that's the missing link between a human being and, a non-human primate, an NHP. We don't know exactly what it is. And there's all sorts of theories of whether it is just a big monkey or some kind of gorilla, whether it's some kind of cross-dimensional traveler that steps into and out of our reality. And some people say it's a spiritual creature, like a protector of the forest or something cheesy like that.
What do you think?
So I fall into the camp that Bigfoot is a flesh and blood animal. I think that it's enough of a stretch to ask people that Bigfoot exists and trying to say that this creature is also a interdimensional or an ultra-dimensional or
cross-dimensional vagrant.
A cross-dimensional vagrant. That's really pushing our luck here. Let's establish that it exists, and then we can try to figure out what it is. And there's actually a decent amount of compelling Sasquatch evidence that's out there. You could go on YouTube and Google Bigfoot videos, and you'll be there for a long time. Most are very shamelessly a dude in a suit. But what's really interesting are the Bigfoot footprints and the occasional skin ridge detail that you get. Because if the listener stops right now and looks at their hand, you'll see that you have a unique fingerprint. And it's the same if you look at your toes. There's a number of Sasquatch track castings that have been collected that show this, that have actual fingerprints or toe prints, something like that. And it would be really hard to fake that, first of all. Second of all, there's some tracks where you can see scars on the feet. Where, if you're an 800-pound animal and you're walking around in the woods, eventually you're going to step on a sharp rock and cut your foot. So they found castings where you can see the scar tissue healing and the skin ridges warp around the scar. And when I read that as a kid, I was like, okay, whatever. But then I cut my finger one time where I sliced open a good amount of finger. And as it healed, I looked and I noticed that the skin ridges, the fingerprint was warped around the scar, just like in those track casts. And I just thought to myself, wow, that's a living foot. Whether it's just like an NBA center walking around barefoot in the mud, or whether it's something else, it's a living animal. And that's very compelling to me. The other thing about the footprints and all that stuff is that the proportions of it don't line up with a human foot. Now, there are different types of feet. To anybody out there who runs, you'll be aware of this. There's high arches, mid arches, low arches, all this kind of stuff. But the foot always has the same proportions of length to width and the muscle structure and all that kind of stuff. Sasquatch tracks often exhibit something distinct. that suggests that it is a large, upright hominid that's not a human. Then you get the DNA evidence, but that's like, I am very skeptical of that. It's usually just a local animal, and the person said, oh, like, there was a cat in my yard, and I found a piece of fur on the ground. It must be Bigfoot. Most of those are pretty unbelievable.
The one time I was up in the woods in the Mayfield Heights, and it was pretty far back there. I ended up getting lost pretty badly, and I was on a deer trail. It was no longer a human trail because of how badly I was lost. I was just kind of trying to follow the direction I thought I was supposed to be going. And next to a rock, I saw a footprint, and I had pretty large. I have like relatively. I'm a woman's 10. Well, there, we'll just go with that. I'm a woman's 10, so I have bigger feet. And this was double the size of my foot. And it was distinct toe outlines, and the arch was like where the mud was. It was 100% a footprint. So to me, I don't know exactly what that was, but I'm kind of along the lines of thinking it was maybe Bigfoot, maybe the Carbondale Yeti.
Yeah, so there's a piece of footage of the Carbondale Yeti where it's just a white Bigfoot. And it's like, according to the story, allegedly, this dude is like in his backyard one night and he hears rustling. And he has his cell phone camera and he turns the flashlight in the direction of the rustling. And he just sees a Sasquatch costume staring back at him.
And that's exactly what it is. It's a Sasquatch costume.
It's very, very shamelessly not real.
But it's gained enough popularity to be even considered as Bigfoot footage. Which is interesting, seeing something so close to where we are right now.
Yeah, there's another story that I heard a while ago. If you go on the BFRO website, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, they have a sightings database that stretches back into like the 60s and 70s in some places. There are 2 Lackawanna County sightings. At least there were. They might have removed them since. It's been a little while. The one was behind the Circle Drive-In in Dixon City, before it was a site of graduations and concerts, when it was just a movie drive-in theater or whatever. Supposedly some guys were going over the mountain one time and they encountered a creature. And then there was another one that I'm drawing a blank on at the moment, but it's there. Oh, McDade Park. That's what it is. There's somebody that claimed they saw Bigfoot back behind McDade Park, like hanging around the mines or something like that.
What an interesting theory. Don't you think the mines would be a perfect place for Bigfoot to hide out?
If I were a large primate and I were trying to avoid human detection and also have a comfy place like that's warm in the winter and where I could store food and stuff, mines sound good to me.
Seems like there might be a KPS mine investigation in the future. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as our plans don't get the shaft, it might be able to happen.
Good one.
So, if Bigfoot is an underground species, that would explain why you don't find bones, why you don't find corpses, why you don't find shit just out in the woods. If it's even a semi-intelligent creature, it would retreat underground most of the time and just kind of come up to forage. It's kind of how, like, there's species in the ocean that, you know, only really come up to the surface when they're hungry. Things like that. There's plenty of animals that only come out at a certain time of year to mate, and then they're very reclusive the rest of the time. It could be that the Sasquatch is similar. And if it is an intelligent creature that's more human than animal, could it be possible that they bury their dead? And that's why we don't find bodies. Is there a Sasquatch religion that's out there? And if there is, you know, how do we view this, you know? Are these things human beings? Do they have rights? Or are they animals like other animals? And I think one of the reasons that this is such a controversial, I mean, as far as cryptids go, is just like, if it turns out Bigfoot's real, it challenges everything we know. if there actually is a missing link that proves conclusively that we are descended from non-human primates, there's a lot of systems in the world. There's a lot of religions. There's a lot of just institutions that have to be revised, that have to be completely challenged. And one that I think of very prominently is like, if we say in Christianity that a human being has a soul but the animals do not, what about this thing that's somewhere in the middle? Does it have a soul? Does it have a personality like we do? Those are tough questions. And I mean, even more than that, if Bigfoot does live underground in our forests, it could be an endangered species. There could be legislation that needs to be put in place to protect it. And that has a lot of ramifications.
So, I think the KPS conclusion on Bigfoot is that it's absolutely real and that the government is covering it up to prevent them from having to shut down the logging industry. What do you think? Yeah?
Now, if we got more subscribers, I absolutely would not say that. But since we have 54 subs on YouTube, it does sort of make sense. One of the things of Bigfoot is you have to accept a lot. If we're going to accept that Bigfoot's real, like, let's start with that. Bigfoot exists. Conclusive statement, it's provable. What does that mean to us? The government wants money from old-growth forests that they log. This is a documented fact. There is a human-like creature that is critically endangered that lives in old-growth forests that want to be logged, that the government wants to be logged. The timber lobbyists. Well, now all of a sudden they can't do that logging anymore. We're down billions of dollars every year. Does the government care more about this mythical creature that probably doesn't exist, or billions of dollars from the logging industry? If I'm the government, that's not a hard decision. Does a college care more about my major and my dreams, or about my money?
It's not a KPS episode if we're not shit-talking higher education.
That's absolutely right. So, to get back to the question of Bigfoot movies, unless you have something else.
No, I was going to say, let's just make this whole episode about Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's good.
Cryptid one.
Yeah, Bigfoot. Yes, Sasquatch, scary, big feet, the Yeti.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, Bigfoot. That's like the promo intro for it is just me saying random Sasquatch words. It's like, watch the whole thing today on YouTube. Subscribe for more. But anyway, Bigfoot, as far as Sasquatch, as far as all this stuff goes, we see ourselves in things that are not like us all the time. It is a human need to project ourselves out into the world. We need to feel that everything is somehow built around us. You know, the universe revolves around us. When we see this creature in the woods that kind of looks like us, it raises many questions.
Would we be happier if we were living like them?
I don't know.
Disconnected from all technology and the reality that was built and the laws that we have to abide by?
I think it's safe to say the only technology we need is Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So that you can be a part of the KPS today. You know, does Bigfoot use the KPS page? He might.
Nobody's going to use the KPS page if you keep pitching it every 5 minutes.
It's been like...
I'm going to leave it.
It's been this whole episode and I haven't plugged the group yet. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was like the third time you have.
No, it's not. You have a very bad memory. So, anyway, in all seriousness, getting back to Bigfoot, there's discussion of whether it just lives in the Pacific Northwest or whether it lives across America. And there's a decent chunk of lore of like Allegheny Bigfoot, you know, like Pittsburgh, Eastern Ohio area Bigfoot, where it's open wilderness most of the way. The Allegheny National Forest had a famous Sasquatch photograph. I want to say it was 2008, where it's the dude's trail cams. And there's two pictures where it's this strange creature, like eating whatever bait he had put out for the animals. The skeptics said it was a bear. The skeptics always say it's a bear. It usually is a bear. However, this creature was not proportioned like a quadrupedal animal. It was a bipedal thing, whatever it was. I mean, I'm going to tell you it was Bigfoot. But it's a Bigfoot episode. So, as far as Sasquatch being around the world, you have the skunk ape down in Florida. Because he lives in the swamp. He's wet. He's covered in moss. He smells like shit. Of course he's going to be called the skunk ape. You have the Ohio grassman, who is a Sasquatch that supposedly lives in the prairie grass. There's so many regional names and stuff. It's very similar to the phenomenon of if you study mythology and ancient religion, there's a flood story in every culture. And it just begs the question, is there a common truth to all of this? Did somebody make up this flood story and this tale of a creature in the woods? Or is there a little more to it? Is there a basis in reality somewhere? Is it possible that this creature actually does live in all these different habitats? Because when we think of NHPs or when we think of humans, they can adapt to whatever environment you put them in. They're intelligent. They're crafty. They're even cunning in a lot of ways. There's more stories than I can tell about person puts trail cams out in their yard and the Sasquatch mysteriously avoids them. It's almost like if you ever want to keep Bigfoot away from your property, just put up equipment that would document it being there. That seems to keep them away, like a magic talisman, which raises many questions all its own. Just like how in the past there have been Bigfoot corpses recovered at various points. Very famous Minnesota Iceman, for example, where it's like P.T. Barnum or some circus guy claimed to have a frozen Neanderthal in ice. And it was on display. Blurry photographs exist. And it's just like a non-human primate looking guy, like with one hand like reaching out and the other hand grabbing his balls. And it's supposed to be the missing link. Well, anthropologists in Wisconsin had heard of this, so they said, we're going to come investigate this. We want to thaw it out and see what it is. The Iceman mysteriously disappeared before they could arrive to do scientific analysis. People say that when they take pictures of Bigfoot, all the other photos in their camera are clear and crisp, but the one of Bigfoot is suddenly very blurry.
Yeah, a lot of the videos of Bigfoot are always very shaky so that you can't depict the movements to be human-like. Sucks,
Basically, all your Bigfoots are just, we call it a blob squatch because it's a dark blob. It looks like a smudge on the camera lens.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like anything.
But they'll just shake it in and out of frame so that when it's moving its arms that looks super like human-like, it appears a little less.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to make a fake cryptid video, make it good.
Yeah. So it just begs the question, are they just fake? I'm going to tell you most of the videos are just fake. Bigfoot Instagram is a treat, and you should all just, type in hashtag Bigfoot and just revel in the pages that come up because they're so ridiculous. There's one specific one where it's a blurry, obviously fake picture of Sasquatch, once every 2 weeks or so. And the caption on every single one says, "Is Bigfoot real or fake?" And this was the inspiration for all of the Instagram posts just saying, "Is Keystone College haunted?" Because every photo they've ever posted is like the lowest quality, and I've laughed out loud at most of them. And they're like trying to tell you that it's a picture of Bigfoot. Like, okay. I don't know.
So, do you guys think Bigfoot is real or fake? And do you think Keystone College is haunted? Let us know in the comments below. You got anything else for us before we end this?
That's right. You know, like, share, and subscribe.
Okay, all right. Thank you guys for listening to this one. And we will see you next time. We might delve a little more into some different cryptids next time. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, everybody.